So let's take this sucker out for a little spin. And I'll tell you, let me prepare you. If you're a E46 fanboy, you might want to turn this one off right now. All right, everyone. Welcome to my home garage. Let's go for a little spin in the E46. Bone stock. Yeah, I don't think there's a single, other than, yeah, it has angel eyes. Let's put the windows down just till we get out of the neighborhood. There is not a single modification to this other than angel eyes. Let's make sure that Chase is not in the way. He's been laying out in the... There he is. I'm gonna do wash this afternoon because I didn't get going quick enough this morning before the sun got us. My dog wasn't there, I wouldn't be pulling out this way, but he's just laying in the middle of the driveway right where I need to go. Let's see if we can stay on the driveway there. So let's take this sucker out for a little spin. And I'll tell you, let me prepare you. If you're a E46 fanboy, you might want to turn this one off right now. I'm going to try to keep an eye on the cameras. I'm shooting this in 2K instead of 4K. So, and we'll bring it up to operating temp. Just go for a spin around the block. I always drive in sport mode because regular mode is just not any good. It's surprising how heavy the clutch is in this car. If I open this up, you'll get a little better light in here. So, no short shifter yet, no clutch delay valve delete yet, no exhaust. I guess it technically has, this isn't a competition package car, but it has competition package wheels on it. It's from a looks perspective, I love the look of this car. That's the reason I got it. You know, I wanted one of these so badly when I was in my early 20s. So let's see, when did this come out? 2001. So 2000 through what, 06, 01 through 06. And I wanted one so badly, it's hard to explain. You know, I really wanted to bite the bullet, get the big loan, make the payments. I think the payments would have been around $1,000. What were these, like $55,000 when it was new? But this one has 40,203 miles. Let's go this way. This will help us warm it up. I bought this from EAG, Enthusiast Auto Group, and I got it, when did I get it, 3 months ago or so? So I got it with 40,000 miles, and it now has 40,203 miles. Now, I've explained this before, but I'm kind of trapped in driving within a certain radius, staying away from the highway, or I start having panic attacks. So hopefully I'll be good driving here with you today. But so I'm driving, 3 miles to the garage, and that's about it. And so I've driven a lot of trips back and forth on these roads here. So even though it's only 200 miles, it's whatever, probably say an average of 10 miles a trip. That's 20 different times behind the wheel. So I spent quite a bit of time behind the wheel. Everything drives straight. This is an EAG car, so it's really well sorted. The paint's in great condition. There's a few touch-ups that they've done. I think the front bumper was they usually kind of refresh or repaint the front clip, the front bumper. I don't think the hood or fenders have been touched. But otherwise, it's a bone stock. Really great example of it. Feels like I'm driving a 40,000 mile new car. the radio works, the stereo works, the sunroof works. There's not a lot of creaks and squeaks. You know, it's really, really nice. So I'm approaching this discussion from a this thing is really nice perspective. Like, really nice. I wanted to find one, so I paid 65 grand for this car. I wanted to find one that had, like, you know, a 10, 15,000 mile car, just because I'm intending to keep this thing for a long time. At least that was the plan. But I had, up to the point of getting this, I had never driven one of these. So I'd never been behind the wheel. I'd ridden in one twice. My friend Ryan had a Interlagos, you know, comp package. He had a SMG, and I'd ridden in it a couple of times, but that's the extent of my experience with one. But I just knew I had to have one. I wanted to get one. Of course, I got the E92. I've had several of those, but I had the E46 I got first. We're still at not close to operating temps. So we'll just keep putting around here. So this thing, you know, has been on my bucket list forever. I really wanted an 06 comp package, which what I'm about to do to this thing, having the comp package is kind of dumb. It kind of doesn't make a lot of sense to even get that, because I'm going to tear the suspension apart and modify the car a bunch anyway. So, but I was in search of a low mile, you know, 05 or 06, you know, comp package, you know, manual car, and preferably slick top. And you know, we probably could have waited and found one, but you know, EAG had this car. The other version I wanted of this would have been white, which was, you know, what we got here. And you know, I just love how these things look, especially in white. I wanted the Interlagos because that's the car that I wanted. That was the version that I wanted most when these were new, and when I almost bought several times. And of course, I went in favor of the $25,000 or less S2000, you know, instead of you know, running up debt and getting one of these when I was in my early 20s. So my initial thoughts, you know, when I first got it, I absolutely hated it. And I still hate it, but I hated it even more when I first got the thing. Oops. And I've grown to like it a little bit more, but we'll explain as we kind of drive around here. If you've never met your heroes, especially it's different if you're driving around in somebody else's car versus, you know, you put your money up, you bought it, this is mine. Like, this is my car, I bought it, and now I'm with it. I get to experience it. Let's go down here. Let's take a little trip down here. The brakes aren't very great. The brakes aren't terrible, but they're not great. So the steering's pretty nice. I mean, it's from what I think that the rack is different on the competition car. I don't know that for certain. I'm not an E46 expert, but the steering is okay. It's a little. I feel like the ratio is a little long. You know, it takes a bit to, like you saw me just kind of turn it around in the driveway. It takes quite a bit of work, but you know, these are very clearly and very easily great handling cars. You know, I come through this turn, you know, even with the stock setup, the stock suspension, stock brakes, and all that, it's decent. And you know, I'm a GT car Porsche owner, so it's not, you know, it's certainly not on that level. But this is a $50,000 car, not a $150,000 or $250,000 car. It's the right size. I like the size of this thing. I think E92 and E46 size cars, I just prefer that. Part of that's probably from all my time in, you know, an S2000. I'm 6'2" and now 240, and I was 6'2", you know, 200 or 220, you know, in my younger years. But you know, I tend to prefer smaller cars without a lot of wasted space. So, you know, I went down the M5 route thinking that would be my preference as I get older and fatter and bigger. But even with my, you know, head where it is, I think we can easily solve that by getting, you know, some Recaro Sportster, some M Performance seats. We can solve that rather easily. But I just like the size. I like the feel of this size car, and the difference now, having driven it quite a bit versus my first drive, which you saw, I think maybe the second drive I'd ever driven at E46. I do like it more, and I actually kind of like its stock form. I like it more than I did. I still don't like the car. I have no interest, especially in the way it's currently set up, in grabbing the keys for this. I'm driving it out of obligation that I spent 65 grand on this thing, and I don't want it to, you know, I don't want the battery to go dead. And so every time I've driven it, it was not like, oh man, let me go drive it. Like even now making this video, I'm like, oh, let me go grab the E46 keys. I really want to go for a spin. It's not, I've never once had that desire to get in this thing. It's just not, it doesn't elicit that response in me. Now, I tend to think about, you know, what would I have thought when I was 20-something years old. Of course, I would have loved this car. Am I jaded a bit because of the cars that I have owned and now do own? So the speed, the horsepower, the fact that it's slow as molasses, you know, it's not that doesn't really affect my decision process. I mean, at the time, this car was pretty quick. I mean, I'm moving pretty good. I'm going 80 here. Oh shoot, was that a bird? That was a bird. It's appropriately powered, and is the engine revs to 8,000 RPM. So it's rev happy. It clearly has not a lot of low end torque. So you're gonna want to rev it out. The thing that bothers me with this engine is that buzzy, even stock. There's very little exhaust note stock, but it's the little bit of exhaust note that you get right here, right there. You know farewell, it's sounding terrible outside the car. You can barely hear it in the car, but outside the car it sounds freaking awful. I really wish I could heel toe so I could actually rev match at the right appropriate time there. Unlike a GT3, or an S2000 that seem to really love being at high RPMs, this I would say is in the middle. Some cars you feel like you're breaking them when you're like, if you're a Corvette and you're at high RPMs, you're like, oh man, I'm gonna throw a rod. This thing sounds like it's gonna explode. But this is, I would sort of put in the middle. Same thing with my E92. It likes to rev, but it doesn't love it. Like it doesn't feel like it's built for that high RPM like like an S2000 would be, or my GT3, or other cars that are just built to rev, like a Toyota-based Lotus or something like that. But it's I can see why people like this engine. I certainly understand why people like the platform. It's a good handling platform. There's a massive aftermarket support for it, or there is a massive aftermarket support for it. The thing looks freaking fantastic. I think this is one of the best looking cars ever. I still think the F80 is probably the best looking car ever, at least in my eyes. To my eyes, I think this looks better than an E92, which I love. And then it's going to look even better when I get properly offsetted wheels and tires, and just get the thing looking the part, so you get it lowered. So there's no question I love the way it looks. The biggest question I have is, and I think we can fix this with clutch delay. You know, clutch delay valve combination with a auto solution short shifter. We can fix a lot of that stuff that I don't like. I've gotten better at shifting it, but this is like the only manual car that I don't find myself being any good. Like it, I feel like I'm having to relearn how to drive a manual. I think a lot of it has to do with the clutch delay. But it, you know, the clutch is really heavy, you know, for a little car with not a lot of horsepower, 330 horsepower. It's got a heavy clutch, and I think, you know, we can modify that a bit with the removal of the clutch delay, and probably, I'm sure that EAG probably bled the clutch and all that, so it's probably up to date there. Yeah, it's I think that is going to really change the driving experience. You saw me drive Michael Waba's car, his modified version of this. But the thing I'm just not sure I'm going to be able to get over is the engine. It just sounds so bad. Like, I didn't realize this. I mean, I've never been I've always wanted an E46, but I've never been an E46 fanboy. You know, like I have been with an E92 or an S2000, and you know, I don't know if this thing is salvageable from an acoustic perspective. I just don't, man. I don't know about it. So I intend to do Öhlins Road and Track. So Öhlins DFV coilovers, you know, the shocks for the Öhlins Road and Track system. I want to do BBS LMRs on this. I want to do, we're going to pull the roof off, get rid of the sunroof, do the Carbonius carbon fiber roof. I'm going to do M Performance seats. We're going to chase, you know, exhaust. We're going to do the Carbonius CSL style intake, and I'm going to tune it. The intake will help a lot. And I know a lot of people talk about, we'll just skip the exhaust and just do the intake, and maybe we'll end up with that. I know there's some people, and I know there are going to be 500 comments on this video, you know, talking about what to do and how to do it. But I'm going to have to try a bunch of different exhaust variants. And so I have transitioned to, when I first got it, I hate it, but I'm going to fix it. A few days later, I hate it. I'm just going to get rid of this thing and just lose the money and move on. I hate it that much. To, after driving it quite a bit, I'm like, okay, I don't like it. I don't hate it. I don't like the car. I'm probably not going to keep the car long term. But I'm really intrigued with the project. And I think they've done the best job I've done in a long time in staying sane and not buying like 1,000 parts and then having them sit there and staring at me while we're trying to move into a new building and get my garage set up and doing 5,000 other things. And so I've just left this car alone. Haven't bought anything, not one part or piece for it. And that's helped me out a lot to just drive it stock for a little while and not hate it. You know, it does kind of get in the way having so many freaking cars. I don't recommend it unless you just have infinite space. It's not a good place to be, to have so many darn cars. But who knows? I mean, maybe getting it modified. See, the problem is, you know, when you start modifying, and then there's always little creaks and squeaks and little quirks and little things that, you know, we don't want. I don't want to deal with. But, you know, it's part of the game. And so I don't know, since I don't love any car stock really, other than a GT3, and even that needs an exhaust. What am I gonna think modified? I wonder. I don't have the air conditioning on. It's really nice out today. So the car's getting, since my ownership's getting 15.2 miles per gallon. I'm sure it would get more than that if I was out on the highway a lot, which I'm not. I'm just doing this kind of back road driving every day. half the time the car barely even gets up to temp. Like I said, it's only a 4-mile trip to OGHQ. You know, having a car like this, I know it's capable, but it just doesn't feel good to have body roll and understeer, and doesn't inspire confidence in my driving. So there's a 90 mile an hour third gear pull to 7,000 RPM. So the car's fast enough. And, we'll make, what does the Carbonius intake and tune make? 40, 50 horsepower, makes a significant amount. Maybe I'm overestimating that. But, 25 horsepower on a 300 horsepower car, a car that makes 2 something at the wheels, make having a 10, 15% increase in power is a big difference. I forget what Waba says his Carbonius intake with the tune did from a horsepower perspective, but I think it's pretty significant. Requires a pretty significant tune. Let's get out of here before we have to follow some dork again. So, I mean, here it doesn't sound that bad. I just know how bad it sounds outside the car. But this is my new leaf I'm turning over. What do I care what anybody else thinks, outside the car? As long as it sounds good in, stop worrying about that kind of crap. Who cares? So, it's you can tell in my discussion here that it's growing on me, and I may have to eat these words, which I'm comfortable doing, about hating it and then just not liking it. So it's growing on me, and if you guys have learned anything about me, I don't need to justify my purchases. I'm happy to admit when I screw up, which is more often than not. Oh no, not a Corolla. Doing so well. I should have gone just a little bit faster. Please turn here or go straight or do something. Yeah, we're still recording at 2K, so cameras haven't overheated yet. So, Olin CFV, M Performance seats, Carbonius intake. We'll have to do a tune, LMRs, some wider wheel and tire package. What else do we need to do this thing? I think I'd like to do a stereo in it as well. I'd like to do a stereo in my E92. Kind of want to send it up to Boston and get something done. Just can't convince myself to pull the trigger to spend 20 grand on a stereo. Oh boy, lady, you're going in the wrong lane. So I think the exhaust is going to be the fight. And I thought what would be really cool, because I mean, there are many exhaust videos on YouTube, but no one's really used a proper microphone and did proper flybys. And I think that we can provide some value here by doing some exhaust flyby stuff. The good news is that right by OGHQ, they've closed that road and turned into a cul-de-sac, one that goes by it. And so I'm hoping that there are no houses around there, so I'm hoping that becomes my exhaust making spot. We'll palm some hundos to some people to see if we can have people not care about the noise we make for 20 minutes while we do some flybys. But that'll be important for because I'm going to have to do a bunch of exhaust iterations on this thing. Well, the Corolla lady was actually leaving me in the dust there. There's no need to do any windows down because the exhaust on this thing doesn't make any noise at all. Alright, let's do a first gear pull. See, there's the clutch delay valve. Yeah. Gotta get that thing out of here immediately. Such a terrible idea. Well, let's see how long the camera can run. The camera got too hot and shut off for me here. So I'll just shut up and drive. We'll use the exterior camera and we'll wrap it up when we get home. So yeah, I'm gonna end up spending 30, 40, depending on if I do a stereo or not on this thing. So it'll be a, you know, like most of the BMWs I've found that most cars cost about, you know, between overpaying for a, or paying up for a really clean car and then modifying it. I'm paying, you know, somewhere in the $110,000 to $140,000 range when you're all in.
Mr. Mormon, what are you doing?
Well, I have my thingy for this car. Making a video.
It's all good. You have a wonderful day. It's a good looking car.
Do you let me in up here? Or?
It's open.
Oh, it is.
It's like magic.
Nice.
Bye.
Thanks. But yeah, that's my current update on the E46. We're probably going to start it in January, February, start tearing it apart and doing what I do. Making a nice car, depending on how your definition, either ruined or nicer. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you. I'm going to go do a Tesla video as well. So, I'll see you in the Nerdmobile. See you shortly. Thanks for watching.